In recent months, the intersections of economic policy and political sentiment have become increasingly significant, particularly as the agricultural sector grapples with the impacts of tariffs and federal budget cuts. Farmers across the United States are voicing their concerns about the ramifications of President Donald Trump's policies, which they believe are threatening their livelihoods. The ongoing challenges of inflation, interest rates, and the broader economic environment have compounded these issues, leading to a complex landscape where agricultural economics and political decisions collide. Vance Ehmke, a farmer from Kansas, recently articulated the plight of farmers in a letter to the editor of the High Plains Journal, highlighting three critical areas of concern: the effects of Trump's administration, the implications of tariffs on agricultural prices, and the challenges posed by rising interest rates and inflation. Ehmke's observations underscore a troubling trend. Farmers are struggling to maintain profitability amid what he describes as a Trump effect, characterized by significant cuts to the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the elimination of key support programs. He argues that the reduction in federal agricultural support is detrimental to farmers, with potential long-term consequences for the industry. The imposition of tariffs has further exacerbated the situation, according to Ehmke. He points out that tariffs not only lower the prices farmers receive for their products but also increase the costs of essential inputs such as equipment and materials. For instance, he cites a case where tariffs on steel have inflated the cost of farming equipment, making it more challenging for farmers to manage their operational costs. This cycle of rising prices and decreasing revenues creates an unsustainable environment for agricultural producers, as noted by CoBank AG economists who reported a significant decline in prepayments for future input needs. Compounding these economic stresses are the rising interest rates, which Ehmke describes as a double-edged sword. While some may view high interest rates as a potential investment opportunity for farmers operating on thin margins, increased debt becomes a liability. Ehmke suggests that many farmers are delaying purchases and prioritizing debt repayment, a strategy that may ultimately lead to further declines in net farm income and land values. The uncertainty surrounding the agricultural market, combined with political and economic volatility, makes for a precarious future for many in the farming community. In a broader context, the economic landscape has also been shaped by the recent presidential election, where inflation emerged as a pivotal issue influencing voter sentiment. As William J. Luther, an economist at Florida Atlantic University, argues, the perception of inflation played a significant role in Donald Trump's electoral success. While many voters attributed their dissatisfaction to rising prices, Luther contends that the underlying issue was slower real wage growth, which persisted even after inflation began to decline. This misalignment between expectations and reality has left many workers feeling economically disillusioned, further complicating the political narrative. Looking ahead, the agricultural sector faces an uncertain future as it navigates the complexities of economic policy and political leadership. The interplay between tariffs, federal support, and inflation will continue to shape the experiences of farmers and their ability to sustain viable operations. As the political landscape evolves, it will be critical for stakeholders within the agricultural community to advocate for policies that support economic stability and growth. The coming months will reveal whether the current administration can address these pressing issues effectively, or if farmers will continue to bear the brunt of economic turbulence. As the winter months begin to fade, Americans are gearing up for a familiar ritual: the transition to daylight saving time. On Sunday, March 9th at 2 a.m., clocks will spring forward 1 hour, marking the start of a period that promises longer days and warmer temperatures. This annual shift not only affects our daily routines but also reignites discussions around the necessity and practicality of changing the clocks twice a year. Daylight saving time, first enacted in 1918 as a wartime measure to conserve energy, has been a fixture of American life since it became federal law in 1966. The practice allows for extended daylight in the evenings, which many argue enhances outdoor activities and promotes a more active lifestyle. According to the National Weather Service, Providence will see its sunset at 6:46 p.m. on the first day of daylight saving, a welcome change for those looking forward to spring. Despite its benefits, the tradition of adjusting clocks has faced increasing scrutiny. Recent polling data from Stetson University reveals that approximately 75% of Americans are in favor of abandoning the biannual clock changes altogether. The poll conducted from February 21 to 23 shows a clear preference for either adopting year-round daylight saving time or reverting to standard time permanently. Among the respondents, 54% favored year-round daylight saving, while only 18% preferred maintaining the current system of seasonal adjustments. The conversation around daylight saving time is not just a matter of personal preference, it has garnered political attention as well. Former President Donald Trump has previously shown support for abolishing the clock changes, though his recent comments reflect a more cautious stance. In a recent press briefing, he described the issue as a 50-50 proposition, indicating the divided opinions on the matter. "It's hard to get excited about it," Trump stated, acknowledging the conflicting desires of those who prefer more daylight in the morning versus those who enjoy later sunsets. Interestingly, the poll data revealed generational differences in attitudes toward the clock changes. Generation Z respondents displayed a higher inclination to keep the current system, with 32% supporting the biannual adjustments. This trend raises questions about the motivations behind such preferences, as younger individuals may have lifestyles less affected by the rigidities of traditional scheduling. As the clock strikes 2 a.m. on Sunday, millions will adjust their timepieces, marking not just a change in hour but a shift in daily rhythms. The debate over the necessity of daylight saving time is far from settled, with lawmakers in various states continuing to explore the implications of permanent changes. As we embrace the longer evenings and the promise of spring, the future of daylight saving time remains uncertain, but public sentiment is clear. Many Americans are ready for a change. In a noteworthy recognition of its unique offering, Mount Bohemia, an extreme ski resort located on the northernmost tip of Michigan's Keweenaw Peninsula, has been named one of the best places for spring skiing in the United States by National Geographic. This accolade, announced recently, underscores the resort's appeal as a destination for avid skiers and snowboarders eager to extend their winter sports season well into the warmer months. As temperatures rise and the winter chill begins to fade, many might assume that ski season is over. However, National Geographic's recent feature highlights that spring skiing can offer distinct advantages. Skiers know that springtime is the best-kept secret in the sport, the publication notes, citing fewer crowds, softer snow, and the opportunity for long afternoons spent enjoying après-ski activities in the sun. Mount Bohemia, with its rugged terrain and backcountry-style riding, perfectly embodies the spring skiing ethos. The resort stands out for its challenging environment as it caters exclusively to expert riders. Unlike typical ski resorts that offer groomed runs and beginner slopes, Mount Bohemia is known for its untamed terrain, which prioritizes tree runs over traditional trails. With over 600 acres of rugged landscapes accessed by just 2 lifts, it is a haven for those seeking adrenaline-fueled experiences. The resort also boasts a Nordic spa that remains open until midnight, featuring hot tubs, pools, and saunas, providing a perfect complement to a day on the slopes. Mount Bohemia's selection by National Geographic comes at a time when many ski enthusiasts are looking for destinations where they can continue to enjoy their passion even as spring approaches. The resort's unique offerings and commitment to providing an unfiltered skiing experience make it an appealing choice for those ready to embrace the thrill of skiing in a more natural environment. As the ski season transitions into spring, the recognition of Mount Bohemia may also have broader implications for the local economy and tourism in the Upper Peninsula. Ski resorts that succeed in attracting visitors during off-peak times such as spring can significantly bolster their revenue and create a sustainable business model. This is particularly important for regions like the Upper Peninsula, where winter tourism plays a vital role in local economies. Looking ahead, the partnership between Mount Bohemia and its community could pave the way for innovative initiatives aimed at enhancing the visitor experience while promoting the natural beauty of the region. With spring skiing gaining traction and more skiers seeking unique, less commercialized resorts, Mount Bohemia is well positioned to capitalize on this trend, potentially making it a staple in the spring skiing destination landscape for years to come. In a rapidly evolving economic landscape, President Donald Trump has made headlines by threatening new tariffs on Canadian goods, intensifying tensions in North American trade relations. This bold move follows a tumultuous week in which Trump initially imposed a 25% tariff on imports from both Canada and Mexico, only to delay the implementation of these levies just days later. The shifting stance has left businesses and consumers alike grappling with uncertainty as the administration navigates its complex trade agenda. On Friday, Trump announced from the Oval Office that he might impose reciprocal tariffs targeting Canadian lumber and dairy products as early as today or within the next few days. He accused Canada of taking advantage of our farmers by maintaining steep tariffs on U.S. agricultural exports, which he believes are detrimental to American producers. Notably, Canadian tariffs on dairy products can reach as high as 299%. A point Trump has frequently emphasized in discussions about trade fairness. The recent announcements come amid escalating verbal exchanges between Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. While Trump has expressed a willingness to negotiate with his Mexican counterpart Claudia Sheinbaum, his relationship with Trudeau has become more confrontational. In a post on Truth Social, Trump criticized Trudeau for allegedly using tariff issues to bolster his political position, while Trudeau has dismissed the tariffs as very dumb. Reports indicate that a recent phone call between the two leaders turned heated, with unnamed sources describing it as containing profanity. The backdrop to these developments is a broader economic strategy focused on enhancing border controls and reducing imports from Canada, Mexico, and China. Trump's administration has also imposed a 10% tax on Chinese imports, exacerbating tensions with that country as well. In response, Canada has announced its own retaliatory measures, including a 25% tariff on $20.7 billion worth of U.S. goods despite the delayed implementation of Trump's tariffs. The uncertainty surrounding these tariffs is likely to have significant implications for the stock market and the broader economy. Analysts have noted that the major stock indices are facing their worst week of the year amid tariff-related turmoil and disappointing job reports. Reflecting on this unpredictability, Trump suggested in a Fox Business interview that tariffs could increase over time, leaving businesses uncertain about future trade conditions. As the administration grapples with both domestic and international pressures, the impact of these new tariffs remains to be seen. While Trump's aggressive trade policies aim to protect American farmers and manufacturers, they also risk straining relationships with key trading partners and could lead to retaliatory actions affecting U.S. exports. As the situation unfolds, businesses and consumers will be watching closely for signals regarding the administration's next moves and the potential for further escalation in trade tensions. Looking ahead, the evolving landscape of U.S.-Canada trade relations will be crucial to monitor, especially as the April 2 deadline approaches for the delayed tariffs. The outcomes of these decisions may not only shape economic conditions on both sides of the border but also influence the broader geopolitical climate as countries navigate the complexities of international trade. In an era marked by rapid technological advancements and strategic corporate maneuvers, the fate of the proposed $6.3 billion deal between Apollo Global Management and International Game Technology (IGT) hangs in a delicate balance. As industry insiders keep a close watch, questions arise regarding the deal's viability and the potential ramifications for both companies and the gaming sector at large. Apollo Global Management, a prominent private equity firm, originally announced its agreement to acquire IGT, a leading provider of gaming technology and lottery systems, back in February 2025. This ambitious move aimed to consolidate Apollo's footprint in the gaming industry, leveraging IGT's extensive portfolio of products and services. However, recent developments have cast a shadow over the transaction, leading analysts to speculate about its future. An unnamed source close to the negotiations revealed there are still hurdles to clear before this deal can be finalized. Regulatory approvals and shareholder sentiments could significantly impact the timeline. The complexity of acquiring a company of IGT's stature is not to be underestimated given the potential antitrust implications and the need for compliance with gaming regulations across multiple jurisdictions. Industry analysts have pointed out that the deal's success hinges on several key factors. First, both companies must navigate the intricate web of regulatory scrutiny that often accompanies large mergers in the gaming sector. With gaming regulations varying widely from state to state and country to country, the approval process can be lengthy and fraught with challenges. Furthermore, shareholders' reactions play a crucial role. Their support will be essential for the deal to move forward without significant roadblocks. The impact of this potential acquisition extends beyond mere corporate balance sheets. Should the deal proceed as planned, it could reshape the competitive landscape of the gaming industry, intensifying rivalries and prompting other firms to reassess their strategies. According to gaming analyst David Schwartz, if Apollo successfully acquires IGT, it could signal a wave of consolidation in the sector as smaller companies may find themselves pressured to merge or innovate to keep up. As the situation evolves, both Apollo and IGT have remained tight-lipped, with official statements offering little clarity. Nevertheless, the stakes are high for both entities. Should the acquisition collapse, IGT may face challenges in maintaining its market position amidst increasing competition, while Apollo could miss out on a significant opportunity to bolster its investment portfolio. Looking ahead, industry watchers will be keenly attuned to any developments regarding the deal, particularly as regulatory discussions progress and shareholder meetings approach. The outcome could set critical precedents for future mergers and acquisitions within the gaming sector, influencing not only corporate strategies but also the broader economic landscape of the industry. In conclusion, the fate of the Apollo IGT deal remains uncertain, with significant implications for both companies and the gaming industry as a whole, as stakeholders brace for potential outcomes. The coming weeks will be crucial in determining whether this ambitious acquisition will come to fruition or fade into the realm of missed opportunities. In a bold move that underscores the shifting landscape of corporate America, Goldman Sachs is urging select managers to relocate from traditional financial hubs like New York City to burgeoning cities such as Dallas and Salt Lake City or face termination. This directive is part of the bank's ambitious Project Voyage, a cost-cutting initiative aimed at reducing overall expenditures by a staggering $1.3 billion. As the financial giant navigates these changes, it is also preparing to trim its workforce by approximately 3% to 5% of its 46,500 employees in the coming months. The rationale behind this strategic shift is multifaceted. Primarily, it is designed to cultivate talent in regions where the company is experiencing growth, particularly among junior employees. By relocating managers to cities with lower operational costs, Goldman Sachs hopes to enhance its talent pipeline while simultaneously capitalizing on significantly cheaper office spaces. For context, the average rent for commercial office space in Manhattan hovers around $80 per square foot, while the costs in Dallas and Salt Lake City are approximately $26 per square foot. Moreover, the cost of living disparity is striking. According to PayScale, New York City's cost of living is 130% above the national average, with median rents reaching $7,749 per month. In contrast, Salt Lake City's cost of living is just 10% higher than average, with median rent at $1,944, and Dallas shows even more favorable conditions, with a mere 2% increase translating to a median rent of $1,497. This financial relief could significantly enhance the disposable income of employees who make the transition. As Project Voyage unfolds, it is expected that layoffs will focus on the bank's vice president tier, a group that has seen its numbers swell in recent years, leading to inefficiencies where VPs report to each other rather than to higher management. The cost implications are considerable. data from Glassdoor indicates that a Goldman Sachs VP can earn upwards of $325,000 annually, with some in their third year exceeding $1 million when including bonuses. The bank's plans are not only reshaping its workforce but also its operational strategy. A $500 million campus is currently under development in Dallas, slated to open in 2028, with projections to increase the local workforce from 4,600 to 5,000 employees. This aggressive expansion in lower-cost areas reflects a broader trend among corporations seeking to optimize operational efficiencies and adapt to changing economic conditions. As the financial sector braces for these transformations, Goldman Sachs' initiative is indicative of a larger trend where companies are re-evaluating their geographic footprints in pursuit of greater efficiency and cost-effectiveness. The implications of such moves could resonate throughout the industry, potentially prompting other firms to follow suit. Looking ahead, the success of Project Voyage will hinge not only on the relocation and layoff strategies but also on how effectively Goldman Sachs can harness the talent and resources in these emerging markets. As economic pressures mount, the financial landscape will continue to evolve, and it remains to be seen how these shifts will influence the broader corporate culture and operational paradigms within the financial sector. In a significant development that underscores the intersection of environmental health and social justice, the Trump administration is poised to withdraw a federal lawsuit aimed at curtailing emissions of chloroprene from a Louisiana petrochemical plant. This chemical, recognized as a probable human carcinogen, has been central to a long-standing environmental struggle that highlights the disproportionate impact of pollution on marginalized communities. Chloroprene, a volatile organic compound, is primarily known for its role in the production of neoprene, a synthetic rubber used in a variety of applications ranging from wetsuits to medical masks. The process of polymerization transforms chloroprene into polychloroprene, but this manufacturing process results in emissions that can endanger nearby populations. Historical data reveals alarming levels of chloroprene exposure, with some manufacturing plants reporting airborne concentrations exceeding 24,000 micrograms per cubic meter in the 1970s. Such exposure has been linked to a surge in cancer cases among workers, prompting research that established chloroprene's carcinogenic potential. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency (EPA) has classified chloroprene as a likely human carcinogen since 2010, establishing a stringent exposure limit of 0.2 micrograms per cubic meter over a lifetime. However, monitoring at the Denka Performance Elastomer plant in Reserve, Louisiana, a site that previously belonged to DuPont, has revealed emissions up to 14 times this limit. This alarming situation has drawn the ire of local activists and environmental groups who argue that the predominantly black community in Census Tract 708 is bearing an undue burden of environmental toxins. Robert Taylor, a local resident and founder of Concerned Citizens of St. John, articulated the deep emotional toll that these health risks have had on his community. "I remember the suffering of my mother with cancer. My wife got cancer, my sister got cancer, my brother did," he lamented, reflecting on the pervasive health crises plaguing his neighborhood. The area, often referred to as Cancer Alley, is notorious for its high cancer rates, which have been exacerbated by the cumulative effects of industrial pollution. Recent studies have reinforced the nexus between high rates of cancer and environmental exposure, indicating that residents in areas with elevated pollution levels experience significantly greater incidence of cancer. A 2022 study indicated that individuals living near the Denka plant reported cancer diagnoses at rates much higher than the national average, with the most affected residing within a 1.5-kilometer radius of the facility. Denka has contested the EPA's exposure limits, arguing that the thresholds are overly conservative and based on flawed animal studies. In 2022, after an independent review, the EPA maintained its limits, countering Denka's claims and emphasizing the need for stringent regulatory measures to protect public health. The potential withdrawal of the lawsuit by the Department of Justice may signal a retreat from proactive environmental enforcement, a concern echoed by local advocates like Taylor. He voiced his frustration with the federal government, stating, "This country has abandoned us to the vagaries of the petrochemical industry." His call to action reflects a growing sentiment among residents who feel their health and safety are being sacrificed for corporate interests. As the situation unfolds, the implications for environmental justice and public health remain profound. The decision to potentially drop the lawsuit raises questions about the future of regulatory oversight in the face of industrial pollution, particularly in communities that are already vulnerable. Advocates like Taylor are mobilizing to ensure that their voices are heard, emphasizing that we cannot lay down for this. Looking ahead, the fate of chloroprene emissions and the health of communities adjacent to petrochemical plants will depend not only on government actions but also on the resilience and advocacy of affected residents. As awareness of environmental injustices grows, the potential for meaningful change hinges on collective action and a commitment to prioritizing public health over industrial profit. The unfolding developments in Reserve, Louisiana may serve as a critical case study in the ongoing fight for environmental justice across the nation. In a significant advancement for neonatal care, a recent study published in the Journal of Perinatology has shed light on the application of electrical impedance tomography (EIT) for imaging, ventilation, and perfusion in infants suffering from severe bronchopulmonary dysplasia (SBPD). This non-invasive and non-ionizing imaging technique has the potential to revolutionize how clinicians monitor and manage lung function in preterm infants, a population often grappling with complex respiratory conditions. Conducted by a team of researchers from various institutions including the University of Colorado and Colorado State University, the study focused on a preterm infant born at just 27 weeks of gestation who faced multiple health challenges including severe fetal growth restriction and pulmonary hypertension. This infant's journey through a range of invasive and non-invasive mechanical ventilation strategies was meticulously documented using EIT, with measurements taken every 3 to 5 weeks starting at 42 weeks post-menstrual age. The research highlights how EIT can effectively characterize lung function in this vulnerable population where traditional methods may fall short. By providing real-time insights into the distribution of ventilation and perfusion across the lungs, EIT allows healthcare providers to tailor ventilation strategies more precisely, addressing the heterogeneous nature of lung disease often seen in preterm infants. As noted by the study's lead author, Caitlin G. Enzer, the ability to visualize ventilation and perfusion defects in real time can lead to more effective and individualized treatment protocols for infants with SBPD. The implications of this research are profound. With preterm infants often requiring complex care that can involve multiple interventions, the use of EIT could streamline decision-making processes in neonatal intensive care units (NICUs). It stands to enhance not only the understanding of respiratory dynamics in these infants but also to improve clinical outcomes by minimizing the risks associated with invasive procedures. Moreover, the study underscores the importance of interdisciplinary collaboration in tackling the challenges posed by severe neonatal conditions. The collective expertise of pulmonologists, biomedical engineers, and statisticians contributed to a comprehensive approach that not only developed this innovative application of EIT but also ensured rigorous analysis and interpretation of the results. As the medical community continues to explore the full potential of EIT in clinical settings, this research paves the way for future studies aimed at validating the effectiveness of EIT in broader populations of preterm infants. The hope is that such innovations will not only improve immediate care strategies but also contribute to long-term developmental outcomes for those affected by SBPD. In conclusion, the findings from this study represent a promising step forward in neonatal respiratory care, showcasing how emerging technologies like electrical impedance tomography can play a critical role in enhancing patient management. As researchers anticipate further developments in this field, the focus will likely shift towards integrating EIT into routine clinical practice. paving the way for a new era of personalized medicine for the tiniest patients. In a significant move that underscores the ongoing scrutiny of big tech, the U.S. Department of Justice (DOJ) has reiterated its demands for Google to divest its Chrome web browser as part of the final remedy proposal in a landmark antitrust case. This development, made public on March 7, 2025, marks a critical juncture in the DOJ's efforts to rein in what it deems monopolistic practices by the tech giant. The proposal filed late Friday specifically instructs Google to promptly and fully divest Chrome along with any assets or services necessary to successfully complete the divestiture. Furthermore, the DOJ is pushing for Google to cease its practice of paying partners for preferential placement of its search engine, a tactic that has drawn criticism for stifling competition. The DOJ's statement emphasizes that Google's expansive market power has deprived consumers and businesses of their right to choose among competing services, labeling the company's operations as illegal conduct that disrupts the marketplace. The roots of this antitrust case can be traced back to its initiation in 2020, when the DOJ accused Google of employing anti-competitive tactics to maintain its dominance in the search engine market. The lawsuit alleges that Google has leveraged lucrative contracts to secure its position as the default search engine on myriad devices and browsers, allowing it to manipulate advertising prices and maximize revenue. Currently, Google commands nearly 90% of the U.S. search market, a figure that the company attributes to its superior technology rather than monopolistic practices. Google's defense, articulated by spokesperson Peter Schottenfels, contends that the DOJ's proposals exceed the court's mandate and could harm consumers, the economy, and national security. Schottenfels stated DOJ's sweeping proposals continue to go miles beyond the court's decision, suggesting that the recommended measures would stifle innovation and harm the technological landscape in the United States. The case reached a pivotal moment in August 2024 when U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta ruled that Google had indeed maintained an illegal monopoly, particularly through its contracts with device manufacturers that favor its search engine. The ruling pointed out that such agreements disincentivize smaller competitors, thereby consolidating Google's power in search and advertising. In November 2024, government attorneys proposed a series of remedies aimed at dismantling Google's dominance. Among these was the recommendation to divest Chrome, as well as possibly divesting Android and terminating Google's lucrative search partnership with Apple, which reportedly brings in billions annually. This plan also included provisions for granting competitors access to Google's data, leveling the playing field in search and advertising. In response, Google has suggested a willingness to modify its business practices, such as allowing for multiple default search agreements across devices and shortening the duration of contracts with hardware manufacturers. However, the company has firmly rejected the idea of divestiture and the sharing of proprietary information with competitors, arguing that such measures would hinder technological advancement. The DOJ's latest filing reinforces the potential for a breakup of Google's core business and sets the stage for what is anticipated to be a protracted appeals process. Legal experts like Paul Swanson from Holland and Hart LLP interpret the government's demands as a strategic opening in negotiations likely to be adjusted as discussions progress. As this high-stakes legal battle unfolds, it signals a new era of regulatory scrutiny for major tech firms under the Biden administration, which is keen to be seen as tough on monopolistic practices while balancing the growth of the tech industry. The arguments surrounding the DOJ's proposals will be presented in court in April, with the outcome poised to shape the future landscape of the tech industry in the U.S. and potentially influence global regulatory trends. The implications of this case extend beyond Google, as the outcomes may herald a new chapter in how technology companies operate and compete in an increasingly scrutinized marketplace. In the intricate web of global politics, recent developments have underscored the growing tensions and divergent strategies between major world powers, particularly China and the United States, as both nations grapple with their respective foreign and economic policies. The implications for global stability and economic cooperation have never been more pronounced. On March 7, 2025, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi delivered a pointed critique of U.S. policies during a press conference held on the sidelines of the National People's Congress in Beijing. Wang's remarks reflected the deepening rift between the two nations, particularly concerning trade and diplomatic relations. He characterized the U.S. imposition of tariffs, specifically those targeting China over accusations related to fentanyl smuggling, as arbitrary and detrimental to bilateral ties. No country should fantasize that it can suppress China and maintain a good relationship with China at the same time, Wang stated, emphasizing the need for mutual respect and cooperation. The context for Wang's comments was the recent escalation in trade tensions initiated by the U.S. under President Donald Trump's administration, which has seen tariffs on Chinese imports rise to 20%. In retaliation, Beijing has implemented additional tariffs on American goods, including critical agricultural products. This tit-for-tat exchange has raised concerns among economists and policymakers about the potential for a prolonged trade war which could have far-reaching impacts on global markets. Wang also addressed the broader implications of U.S. foreign policy, arguing that a unilateral approach undermines international cooperation and could lead to a law of the jungle scenario. He warned that such policies would ultimately harm smaller nations, leaving them vulnerable in a competitive global landscape. This sentiment resonates as countries navigate the complexities of international relations amidst rising nationalism and protectionism. In a striking juxtaposition, U.S. President Trump has advocated for a more isolationist stance, aiming to prioritize American interests at the expense of traditional alliances and multilateral agreements. This divergence in approaches was further highlighted during speeches made by both leaders on the same day, wherein Chinese Premier Li Qiang emphasized a commitment to openness and multilateralism, contrasting sharply with Trump's focus on reducing spending and increasing tariffs. As the geopolitical landscape evolves, issues such as the ongoing conflict in Ukraine remain central to discussions of international security. Wang reiterated China's call for peaceful resolution through negotiations, suggesting that the crisis could have been avoided with better diplomatic engagement. This perspective underscores China's desire to position itself as a stabilizing force even as it maintains strong ties with Russia, complicating its relationship with Western nations. Meanwhile, Ukraine's Minister of Defense Rustem Umerov has been actively pursuing enhanced defense cooperation with European Union officials, highlighting the importance of military support amid ongoing hostilities. Umerov's discussions in Brussels focused on securing funding for Ukraine's defense and exploring opportunities for joint weapons production, reflecting a strategic pivot towards strengthening European security partnerships in light of external threats. As tensions mount between the U.S. and China, the ramifications extend beyond bilateral relations to influence global alliances and security frameworks. The potential for a new Cold War looms, characterized by increasing competition for influence in Asia and beyond. The need for effective diplomacy and statecraft has never been more critical as nations must navigate the thin line between national interests and global cooperation. Looking ahead, the path forward appears fraught with challenges, as both the U.S. and China continue to assert their influence on the global stage. The international community will be watching closely to see whether diplomatic efforts can prevail over rising tensions. The choices made in the coming months will have lasting consequences, shaping the future of international relations and the global order for years to come. In a powerful display of unity and defiance, thousands of researchers and science advocates took to the streets across more than 30 cities in the United States and Europe on March 7, 2025 to protest against the significant cuts to scientific funding and workforce initiated by the Trump administration. The rallies, organized under the banner "Stand Up for Science," became a clarion call for scientists feeling beleaguered by policies that threaten the integrity of the research community. The atmosphere at these events was charged with a palpable sense of urgency and determination. Protesters chanted phrases like "Scientists will not be silenced" and "Facts over fear," encapsulating a growing frustration among scientists who feel their voices and work are being stifled. In Trenton, New Jersey, Rush Holt Jr., former executive director of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, echoed the sentiments of the crowd, quoting Bob Marley, "Get up, stand up." The rallying cry is not without foundation. Over recent months, the Trump administration's actions have raised alarm among scientists. Reports indicate that thousands of positions have been eliminated within key scientific agencies, jeopardizing critical functions ranging from nuclear safety to disease surveillance. Additionally, attempts to freeze research grants at major funding bodies like the National Science Foundation have further underscored the precarious state of scientific inquiry in the U.S. A particularly alarming revelation from Nature highlighted the mass termination of NIH grants for research projects that do not align with the administration's political ideologies, including studies on transgender health. Among the protesters, Anna Maria Vrancianu, a psychologist at Harvard Medical School, expressed urgency about the situation, stating, "This is the time to actually stop this before things get really bad." Her sentiment was mirrored by Abraham Flaxman, a researcher from the University of Washington, who conveyed a sense of awakening among scientists. "I've been waiting for someone to do something. It's dawned on me, nobody is coming to save us. We're going to have to save ourselves." The rallies gained international support, with scientists and citizens in France standing in solidarity with their U.S. counterparts, highlighting the global implications of the threats facing scientific research. Colette Della Walla, one of the event organizers and a psychologist at Emory University, warned that the situation is dire. "This is a five-alarm fire. If we don't set down our work and turn attention to these matters, there will not be science for us to come back to." Despite the fervor of the protests, the organizers are aware that mere demonstrations will not suffice to bring about change. Samantha Goldstein, who studies women's health at the University of Florida and is another rally co-organizer, emphasized the need for sustained advocacy. "It's not a one-and-done thing. We will continue to be around, making sure our policy goals and demands are fulfilled." The protests also highlighted concerns about the long-term impact of the Trump administration's policies on the future of science. At the Boston rally, cognitive neuroscientist Nancy Kanwisher warned of the potential loss of a generation of scientists, stating, "You can't just fire everyone and then rehire them when you need them." Public health researcher Atul Gawande lamented the career disruptions faced by scientists, remarking, "I've watched scientists holding their careers in boxes as they leave the dream jobs they have been fired from." The growing discontent within the scientific community reflects broader anxieties about the implications of silencing scientific inquiry, particularly in an era marked by challenges such as the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change. The protests serve as a reminder of the vital role that science plays in informing policy and addressing global issues. As the Stand Up for Science movement gains momentum, it remains to be seen how these collective actions will influence policy changes and restore the integrity of scientific research in the U.S. The protests signal a pivotal moment for scientists, who are increasingly aware that their future, and the future of scientific inquiry, depends on their ability to advocate for their work and the value of facts in a climate where they are often under siege. The call for sustained engagement and policy reform is more crucial than ever as scientists strive to reclaim their voices in a landscape that appears increasingly hostile to research and evidence-based discourse.